Welcome to this video about filterable parameters and variables, and how to configure columns in user interaction activities. Hello everyone! In this class, we'll cover the final configuration and publishing steps in BIZUIT. We'll set up the email sending activity, define parameters and filterable variables, and configure the columns displayed in the task trays of the user interaction activities within the BIZUIT dashboard. Finally, we'll explain how to publish the process with trace and error logging for efficient monitoring. Let's get started. Filterable parameters and variables. Before configuring the columns visible in the task tray of the user interaction activities in BIZUIT dashboard, it's important to understand the concept of filterable parameters and variables. Defining which data will be filterable greatly enhances the user experience, making it easier to locate and view tasks quickly. A filterable parameter or variable is a data element from the process model that is relevant to the business, and which users can use to search, filter, and display as an additional column in the task tray grid in BIZUIT. This allows users to focus only on the tasks that matter to them, improving process efficiency. Let's look at some examples of filterable parameters and variables. Case number, which allows searching for a specific task by its identifier, requester name, to quickly find cases started by a particular person, due date, which helps prioritize pending tasks, and process status, which can filter tasks based on whether they are pending, in progress, or completed. In our reimbursement management process, we'll mark the following as filterable: the employee number, the amount spent, and the variable V complies with policy. To do this, we go to the parameters or variables screen. Select the item we want to make filterable, and optionally assign it a more representative display name. For example, for V complies with policy, we could display it as fulfills reimbursement policy. In the case of XML-type parameters or variables, we can select a specific node in the structure to be filterable. For example, in the initial evaluation variable, we can select the node result and label it as initial evaluation result. Similarly, for the admin manager authorization data variable, we can select its result node and name it Manager Evaluation Result. Once a field is marked as filterable, it becomes available both in BIZUIT Designer, for configuring task tray columns, and in the BIZUIT dashboard interface, where users can apply it as a filter criterion. Now that we understand the concept of filterable parameters and variables, let's configure the visible columns in a user interaction activity. We right-click the corresponding activity and select the Configure Columns option. We will now see the column configuration screen, which shows the default columns currently visible in the dashboard task tray for that activity. In the Type column of the configuration grid, we can choose whether we want to display internal BIZUIT data, such as the elapsed time since the instance arrived at the task, the users or roles allowed to access it, etc. Or instead, we can choose the parameter or variable option. By clicking on the Edit button, we can select one of the parameters or variables previously marked as filterable to display it in this column. We should also define a column name that will be shown in the dashboard by entering it in the column header field of the configuration grid. In this case, we'll name it Employee Number. We'll repeat this for the expense amount. and for the variable v complies with policy. Finally, we'll delete some of the default columns that aren't needed and reorder the rest. By default, instances in the dashboard task tray are ordered by their arrival time to the activity, showing the most recent ones first. But we can define a custom default sort order and specify whether it should be ascending or descending. In our case, we'll sort by the amount of the expense. In ascending order. We can also choose to apply this configuration to all user interaction activities in the process, which helps optimize setup time. As we can see, after applying this option, the Admin Manager authorization activity now has the same configuration as the initial evaluation activity.